Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this Monday evening so that we can have a chat about care, custody and control. I'm joined by Faith Claydon from SEIB Insurance Brokers, who's going to be answering some in-depth questions about care, custody and control. I will just give a brief introduction to myself for people that don't know who I am. I'm Cheryl Johns. I run LiveryList and the Yard Owner Hub. I've worked as a freelance groom, yard owner, livery and horse owner, livery client. So I've been from all of the areas that are involved in the livery industry. I launched LiveryList in 2011 and now it's the leading resource for livery yard owners, covering all types of support and resources for all administrative and practical aspects of yard management. Through that, I also do a bit of consultancy for some equestrian organisations and businesses to help them understand the livery industry a bit better, and the needs and demands of yard owners. And care, custody and control is something that crops up quite often. So I thought it'd be a good idea if I work with SEIB and we put together this quite in-depth evening. It won't take too long, perhaps about 35-45 minutes at most, and hopefully we'll try and cover as much of care, custody and control as possible. So I'll just pass you over to Faith, who will just give an introduction to herself, and then we'll get started.
Evening everyone, so I'm Faith and I'm an equestrian sales executive at SEIB. So I've been at SEIB for nearly 3 years now, working within the new business team with a focus on our equine liability products that we offer. So I'm an avid equestrian myself. I currently compete my horse Noah, which is pictured in British dressage, and I did also spend 5 years at Bristol University obtaining a degree in equine performance and business management. So tonight I am here to discuss a crucial aspect of safeguarding your equine business, which is care, custody and control coverage. It's essential to recognise the significance of care, custody and control cover when trying to mitigate potential risks and protecting your equine business from liability or negligence. So owning or operating an equine facility does come with inherent risks, and despite the utmost care and precautions, accidents can happen. So whether it be a minor injury to a horse or sadly an unfortunate death, the financial consequences of such incidences can be severe. So without adequate protection, your business could face significant liabilities and legal expenses if you, as a yard owner or business proprietor, are found liable for this.
Okay, so like I say, obviously this is quite an in-depth aspect of insurance, but in my opinion, I think it's vital for anybody that offers livery services. I do just have to say, obviously, the information contained herein is for informational purposes only, so it's really important that you make sure any insurance product you take on is suitable for your own business. So this evening is literally for guidance and to help you understand a bit more about the situations where care, custody and control might come into play. If you've got pen and paper, that might be quite handy. Because it's quite an in-depth subject, we won't be doing a question and answer session at the end, but what you can do, SEIB will be sending out a follow-up email this evening, I believe, on which there'll be the opportunity to ask further questions. So if you have a specific question or you would like clarification on anything that's been discussed during my chat with Faith, then please do pop that in and send that to them, and somebody will get back to you with some more information. I think that is everything, so let's get started. So first things first, Faith, what is care, custody and control?
So care, custody and control, we sometimes abbreviate it as CCC cover, if you do hear me say that tonight. It is an optional extension to public liability. It just protects livery yard proprietors for any horse in their care, custody and control should they be found liable for any injury, illness or, God forbid, death of a third party horse they have responsibility for. So it's important to recognise this is different to the standard cover provided with public liability insurance for third party property damage and bodily injury. So care, custody and control is damage to the actual horse under your care, custody and control, and this wouldn't ordinarily be included in an average public liability insurance. This just highlights the importance of choosing a policy provided by an equestrian specialist such as SEIB. It's also very important to know this cover doesn't apply to horses that you own or loan, which typically are covered by a mortality or vets fees policy. So CCC does not also cover you if a third party horse in your care injured somebody else or damages their property, as this would be covered under public liability insurance if you were found liable for the incident.
Okay, so when somebody is comparing like for their insurance quotations, would it be likely that care, custody and control is ever automatically included in a yard policy, or is it something that people really need to check is specifically included?
So SEIB, we have 3 different limits of CCC cover depending on the value of third-party horses kept at the premises. So we have limits of up to 10,000, 25,000 or £50,000 per horse with a £100,000 policy limit within the year. We include £10,000 as standard to policies, not just to yards, for instance, but also for the self-employed freelance grooms or instructors. So in choosing SEIB as your insurance broker, rest assured you're partnering with a company that not only possesses a deep understanding of the equestrian sector, but also prioritises their needs above all else. So with our CCC extension, we aim to allow equestrian establishments to operate with confidence, knowing that they are shielded by a comprehensive insurance solution crafted with certain requirements in mind. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to advise on what other insurance brokers might include as standards, so it's always best just to check or seek cover from an equestrian specialist who can discuss what options are available for you.
Okay, so when I did the last insurance webinar with Rosie, we were talking about the increase in values of horses on yards, because obviously, especially since COVID, the price that horses are worth have gone astronomically through the roof. So obviously you're talking about limits on the insurance policies. Are there any precautions that yard owners need to take about making sure that they are within those limits for the cover that they have?
So yeah, as you say, as we all know, horse values are continuing to increase, so it is crucial to review and adjust your insurance coverage accordingly to ensure adequate protection. So one important consideration is the policy limits. So as I just mentioned, SEIB, we have those 3 limits of 10, 25 or £50,000 per horse with that £100,000 policy limit. However, we cannot advise on the indemnity limits, as these will depend on the value of the horses that you are stabling and the potential risks associated with your operations. So the decision on what level of cover you go for would be up to the policyholder. It is just essential to carefully evaluate the value of the horses under your care and select a policy limit that reflects their worth. So by choosing an appropriate level of coverage tailored to your exact needs and circumstances, you can protect your equine business against unforeseen losses and liabilities. So say, for instance, if you were running a competition and training yard with a high string of high value horses, then you may opt for the higher option of care, custody and control.
Okay, so another question, one that actually literally cropped up today, somebody messaged it to me. If you have a policy in place on your yard, as in within the running of your yard, that all horses on the yard have to be insured, and so they've got their own liability insurance, a lot of yard owners don't understand the whys and wherefores of still needing care, custody and control, but obviously it still covers something completely different in effect, doesn't it, from the horse's own insurance?
Yeah, we do get that question a lot. Working in sales, I get that question a lot. So it is advised to have the care, custody and control cover. Whilst your liveries may have their own horse insurance in place for mortality and vet fees, it doesn't present you as a yard owner being sued should an accident occur and you are found liable for this. The coverage not only pays out on your behalf should you be found liable, but it also triggers a policy to include defence costs associated with the type of claim. So if the care, custody and control cover is not included on your policy, there'd be no cover to pay for your defence cost if you were, God forbid, sued.
Okay, so I think one thing that a lot of yard owners find difficult is the definition of when care, custody and control might come into place. So examples of what types of negligence, for example, that they might find, if you've got some example cases or examples.
Yeah, so for equine professionals and businesses, horses are not just animals, they are valuable assets. Whether you're running a training yard, livery stables, or offer riding lessons, your livelihood does depend on the well-being of the animals. So the CCC cover ensures that your business is safeguarded against unforeseen events, allowing you to focus on providing quality care and services to the clients. So to give you an idea, there's a couple of examples I have here of claim notifications. So one, for instance, a livery horse was being led by an employee when the horse caught its leg on a gate, causing injuries to the horse's leg. Whilst the owner of the horse had their own policy in place for vet fees, the vet bill had exceeded the policy limit. So the owner is now pursuing a claim against the livery yard under the CCC section of the cover, with payments expected to exceed £10,000. So, for example, this does just highlight the importance of having the CCC cover, even when individual horse owners have their own insurance in place, as a claim could still be pursued against you in these type of circumstances. We do have another claim notification where a livery horse was tied up in a stable and it attained an injury where sadly the horse did have to be put to sleep. Although liability was denied, there have been significant solicitors' fees to defend this case. And another one, for example, was a livery horse kicked another horse in a field, resulting the horse again had to sadly be put to sleep. A formal claim was received for this, but the livery yard proprietor was not actually present when the injury occurred and also had no input in regards to shoeing of the horses and the horses wearing back shoes on the yard. The insurer is therefore defending this allegation as the yard owner was not involved in this injury, and the claim is being redirected to the owner or keeper of the horse under the Animals Act. And again, this does just highlight the importance of insurance in that even if you are a yard owner and you have no responsibility for an accident that might occur on your yard between two horses, your insurance can still defend you in this instance, and there's still solicitors' fees involved to do so.
Okay, so lots of different situations. We all know horses like to be difficult at the best of times and throw up some surprises. So would yard owners expect to see care, custody and control names specifically on their insurance? When we did the insurance one last time, a lady asked a question and I think she said under hers it was classed as animal bailment, which I think caused a bit of confusion because I think that's an Americanized term. But would you expect to specifically see on your policy that you've got care, custody and control cover?
So, care, custody and control is described in our policies as the following. So, it extends to indemnify the insured against liability for any injury, illness or disease, fatal or non-fatal, incurred by animals under the care, custody and control of the insured or the insured employee within the UK, Northern Ireland and the Channel Islands. So, at SEIB, we do adhere to a precise definition of care, custody and control, ensuring clarity and transparency within our coverage offerings. It is important to note that while we define CCC in this manner within our policies, we cannot speak on behalf of other insurance companies and how they classify their care, custody and control provisions. You would just need to check this with your insurance broker or provider and how they classify this.
Okay, so another question that comes up quite often about situations that might relate to insurance claims. If you had an outbreak of an infectious disease on a yard, for example, strangles, so you're looking at restrictions on the movement of horses, vets bills, loss of income for the yard owner, is that something that would be covered under care, custody and control?
So, unfortunately, care, custody and control typically doesn't extend to infectious diseases. There is a general exclusion for infectious or contagious diseases within our yard policies. So, this exclusion includes any disease capable of being transmitted from an infected person, animal, or species to another person, animal, or species by any means. However, if your buildings and contents are insured, there may be an alternative option available to mitigate the financial impact of such events, and this is called business interruption insurance, sometimes abbreviated as BI insurance. So, business interruption insurance is most often overlooked. Business insurance covers, particularly by riding schools and livery yards. It's largely because many business owners mistakenly believe that their insurance protection for buildings and contents will take care of everything should trade be disrupted by serious damage, such as a large fire or flood. This can also include occurrences such as equine influenza or strangles, as you mentioned, at the premises. So, in essence, if your equine business experiences disruption due to infectious diseases, BI insurance can provide financial assistance to help mitigate the resulting losses and facilitate the continuation of the operations. However, it's always important to read your documents in their entirety, and for this cover to be effective, biosecurity measures would have to be followed as one such example.
I think that's a good point because again, when I did the one with Rosie, a lot of it was showing that you take the necessary steps to prevent situations arising, for example. So what sort of precautions could yard owners take to try to reduce the risk of claims under care, custody and control, or to show that they're at least trying to mitigate the risk to the equines on their yard under their care?
Yeah, so under all our policies, it is subject to reasonable precautions being taken and having adequate risk assessments in place. So, risk assessments can help you decide if reasonable precautions are in place to protect your employees, clients, and others who may be affected by your business activities. A risk assessment just involves thinking about what might cause harm to people and then deciding if precautions are already in place are adequate. If they're not, then you do need to decide and highlight what further action is needed to prevent any danger. It is also important to check any sort of livery yard contracts, so it's wise to include information within the contract or associated documents about any particular behaviours a customer's horse might exhibit, biting for example, so that handlers or grooms can be made aware and extra precautions and risk assessments are carried out to try and prevent any claims, or at least to be seen taking all reasonable precautions. And this kind of detail, it can be really useful to insurers when they're looking at claim situations. So if we do look at an example, for instance, consider you're clipping a horse where an accidental injury occurs. While such incidences can potentially lead to a care, custody and control claim if liability is established, measures can be implemented to lessen this risk. So yard owners can take steps such as assessing the temperament and the behaviour of the horse and consulting with the horse owner to understand their preferences and any considerations during activities. By taking proactive measures and addressing potential risks, yard owners can reduce the likelihood of claims under the care, custody and control coverage, thereby protecting their business and the welfare of the horses under their care. So just furthermore, yard owners should regularly inspect and maintain facilities, equipment and infrastructure to ensure that they're in a safe working condition for everyone. And at SEIB, we have a risk management guide for equestrian establishments, which includes a step-by-step advice on risk assessments. And there is a free copy available to existing clients on request.
Okay, so I think it's really good because a lot of yard owners really dislike admin, but I think from points like that, it's really important that you try to have as much documentation and information as possible.
Absolutely.
For people that have got staff on the yard, whether they're employees or just people helping out in the yard, would a care, custody and control policy extend to those as well, or would it just be, for example, the yard owner or the person named on the policy?
So, care, custody and control cover can indeed extend to injury or illnesses caused by employees or volunteers to horses under the care of the insured yard. However, it's essential to confirm that the insured yard has the necessary employer's liability insurance in place to provide coverage for such incidents. It's also important to make sure that all staff have had the correct employee training and risk assessments are fully completed. And by law, if you do employ someone, either full-time, part-time, have volunteers, or even work experience students, you will need employer's liability cover on your policy. So employees and volunteers, they're typically considered representatives of the equine business whilst carrying out their duties. Therefore, if an employee or volunteer were to cause injury or illness to a horse in their course of work, the CCC cover could apply to cover the resulting damages or liabilities. However, it is crucial to verify that the policy includes coverage for injuries caused by employees or volunteers and to maintain appropriate employer's liability insurance to safeguard against any potential liabilities arising from such incidents.
Okay, so thinking about different setups for different yards, if people, either if they don't have their own staff and they're employing, for example, freelance grooms to come on, or they've got freelance instructors coming onto the yard or other people offering other services, would they be expected to have CCC on their own policy? So the person coming in, if they're clipping a horse or schooling or teaching?
Yeah, so it is wise for anyone providing services on a yard, whether as a freelance groom, instructor, or in any other capacity, to have care, custody and control cover on their insurance policy. While some insurers may not automatically include this cover, having this is essential to protect against any potential liabilities arising from accidents, injuries, or damages to horse under their care. So, as a yard owner, it is advisable to confirm whether the individual has the CCC coverage included within their insurance policy, since not all policies may offer this extension. It is just important to check with the freelance groom or instructor to ensure they have adequate protection in place, because without this, there may be gaps in an insurance cover that could expose both the individual and the yard owner should there be an incident. So therefore, it's just recommended to communicate with the freelancers working on the yard and just encourage them to check their insurance cover to make sure there is as little exposure as possible.
Okay, so if you have service providers like freelance creams, for example, operating on the yard, a lot of yard owners, a lot of them don't actually ask to see their insurance when they should do. But for those that are asking for the insurance, should they be asking for supporting documentation as well to know that that person's fully assessed any risk on their yard? So thinking of the care, custody and control of the service provider completely independent of the yard owner.
Yeah, so completing a risk assessment is not all about creating a huge amount of paperwork. It's just about identifying sensible precautions. And of course, risk assessments on their own, they won't prevent accidents from happening, but it would be your responsibility as the yard owner that the employees gives confirmation that they're doing the same.
Okay. And so going back to thinking about yard owners, are all insurers or insurance brokers aware of care, custody and control? Obviously, there's quite a lot of different brokers and insurers that offer livery yard insurance. And it's a question that crops up quite often, that some insurers or brokers say that yard owners don't need care, custody and control. For example, most commonly if they're just a DIY yard. But obviously it's the importance of using a specialist equestrian insurer to make sure you're getting the right coverage for exactly what you're offering on the yard.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can't speak on behalf of other insurers, but for any broker or client that approaches us, we do always highlight the importance of care, custody and control and how it can help an equestrian business. So here at SEIB, we are an insurance broker with over 60 years experience, and we provide special cover to the equestrian sector, and our reputation is crafted from significant experience and expert knowledge. However, due to the niche nature of the equestrian market, some brokers may lack the specialised knowledge and experience required to adequately address the unique insurance needs of equine businesses. So at SEIB, we do understand the importance of CCC cover for equestrian businesses, and we always strive to educate our clients and brokers about the significance in protecting their operations.
Okay, so thinking about other situations, if you have, for example, a yard that offers competition livery or schooling livery and you're taking horses off of the premises, perhaps to a clinic or to an event or to go off and hire some facilities for schooling, assuming that you've got the necessary permissions and what have you for the actual transport aspect, once you're there doing that activity with that horse, does care, custody and control extend to cover activities like that off of site as well?
Yes, again, another question we do get quite a lot. It does, it can extend to activities taking place off the yard, such as transporting horses and taking them off site, as you mentioned, for competitions or an arena hire for schooling, assuming that you are correctly insured for the business activities. So, for example, if you are running a comp and training yard and you're taking a horse to a show as part of your service, this would typically be included under the care, custody and control coverage. However, if you are transporting horses for an extra fee, then you will need separate insurance policy to cover you for this. It is also very important to check your insurance and policy wording for any exclusions under the care, custody and control section. So at SEIB, we do have some exclusions under the care, custody and control section of the policy. For instance, if you were operating a stud yard, there's no cover for the mare whilst the mare is being covered by the stallion. While the mare is in the vicinity of a stallion for the purpose of covering whether or not covering actually takes place. And if the mare is a stud and the injury is directly attributable to the mare being in foal. It does also exclude any injury or illness or disease directly or indirectly arising out of the administration for any medicine or treatment by the insured or the insured's employee, unless it's under the direction of a qualified vet. Therefore, it's always important to fully read your policy schedule and your insurer's policy wording. And it's also essential to confirm with your insurer that they are fully aware of all activities taking place on your yard and off-site to guarantee that you are correctly insured and covered for all eventualities. So by communicating with your insurer and providing accurate information about your business activities, you can make sure that you have comprehensive coverage in place to protect both your business and the horses under your care when on-site and during off-site activities.
Okay, so I think it's really one main thing is it's really important for people to make sure they're thinking of everything that they offer on the yard when they're getting their insurance policy, because I know it's quite easy, especially if you start to add things in like services, or people decide they're going to start doing a bit of schooling, that it's quite easy to overlook that when that's when you might cross the line of needing a slightly different policy. So thinking about arena hire as well, if you have people, external people coming into hire facilities like indoor, outdoor arena, cross-country course, does care, custody and control cover somebody that comes in to use the facilities as well as liveries, or is that not something that would be covered?
So, no, care, custody and control coverage typically does not extend to cover horses brought into hire facilities, as these horses generally are not under the care, custody and control of the livery yard owner. However, there are certain scenarios where the care, custody and control coverage may apply. For instance, if you were running an overnight show where the horses are staying on site and they're under the yard owner's care for the duration of the event. So if you are hosting events or hiring out your facilities, it is just crucial to ensure that your yard insurance policy includes the necessary extensions to cover activities such as public liability for your hired facilities or shows. This just ensures that you are adequately protected against any potential liabilities arising from accidents or injuries involving horses brought onto your premises for any hiring out or shows.
Okay, so right, I think we've covered most of the most common questions. Out of everything that you get asked, Faith, and knowing everything that you know about the insurance cover and its you know, everything that may happen, what would your top tip be for yard owners when they're thinking about their insurances?
Yeah, so I just think it's really important to emphasise that all documents such as letters, policy wordings, insurance schedules should be thoroughly read in full. If there are any sort of questions or concerns, it's always advisable to reach out to your insurance provider promptly. And it's worth noting that insurance policies can vary between providers, so it's always essential to review the coverage offered. So obviously, I had to let you know, please keep in mind that terms and conditions do also apply for this.
Okay, that's great. Well, we've managed to wrap that up nice and quickly. Did you have anything else to say, Faith, just before I wrap up for the webinar?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for giving up your Monday evening and attending the webinar, and I hope you did all find it informative. I am available to assist with any sort of insurance inquiries or requests for quotations that you may have, even if it's not for livery yards, for horses, freelance insurance, for instance. I'm more than happy to help. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining this evening.
Okay, that's great. Right, we've done it in half an hour. It's been quite speedy and quite in depth. So the recording of this will also be available. So SEIB will share that, and I will share that as well on the group and on LiveryList. Like I said at the beginning, the SEIB will be sending out a follow-up email this evening, I believe, where if anybody has any questions that have been raised from what Faith's been talking about, or any specific situations that you wanted to discuss, or just clarification of any points, then please do pop those in there, and they will get back to you with a suitable response. Thank you for giving up your Monday evening, and I hope that we haven't all worn you out too much with the insurance jargon. So thank you very much, and hopefully it's been useful for everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.